Okay, it's May 5th, it's 2020. It is currently 9:16 a.m. And just to expound upon what I captured visually is to show how P.O.C. is in operation when the third-party insider TRACEE Banks is outside of the apartment. Again, she is very much still engaged in P.O.C., engaged in corporate invasion of privacy, again, aware of every word that I utter and every action that I take, movement, etc. And again, her arrival, her departure of the premises is pursuant to that knowledge. And so I just want to establish the fact that based on the conduct, this is established by the pattern of conduct, not just on my inherent or intuitive knowledge. It's based on that which she has demonstrated based on a pattern of conduct for a prolonged amount of time. Her actions show also that she remains informed about what I am doing, and this speaks to the timing of that she engages in activity, and activity is in the form of her arrival and or departure of this apartment. That's included in P.O.C. So with regard to third-party outsiders who take the lead remaining surrounding around me, the reason why I focused on the AC again, as I stated, this is a means of audible activity inside of the apartment. And as I stressed, third parties and the expansiveness of the system, speaking of, for example, even control of the electricity. You're talking about Edison with regard to lights inside of the apartment, with regard to the AC as it operates inside of the apartment. You're talking about the sprinkler system. This is a third party acting in concert with the state, and so this is an illustration, and what I want to speak, it's not a coincidence that the AC motor started operating while I am narrating P.O.C. But this is my point. What I showed was the temperature inside of the apartment. It is at 74, 75. It is vacillating between 74 and 75, whereas I set the temperature for the AC at 60. And so its operation is supposed to remain running until it cools down the apartment to the temperature that you set it at. And basically, it would be constantly running the AC motor, which would keep it at a constant cooling function because you set the temperature so low. What it is doing, it is stopping and starting. And what I want to show is that this is deliberate conduct. This is that which is controlled by the state, and it is used as a means of activity as third parties are engaged in frequent crossing of paths on the sidewalk outside of the apartment. And while there is the use of improbable light activity inside of TRACEE's bedroom, coming through her window, traveling across the door. Now again, third parties are not the ones that are engaging in crossing paths are not necessarily the ones that are directing light through TRACEE Banks' window across her door. I want to stress that these are third parties that are acting in concert. And so actually it is irrelevant the specific party. What I am speaking to is the presence of the system, and I'm showing how the system works. I'm showing the coinciding elements as they exist and how the third parties are engaged in P.O.C. So as I also documented last night with regard to the timing of the sprinklers and the timing of the occupant above in 55 engaging in loudly stomping on the ground at 10:28 p.m. And the ground is the ceiling above me. So this is the creation of audible activity by the occupant in 55 directly above me. And again, engaging in this substantial disturbance, which is audible activity. And this is why P.O.C. is also statutorily defined as harassment. And so this is how all the elements line up and also qualify under each of the relevant statutes and laws, federal and state. So you have, at the time that I'm engaging in writing P.O.C., 55 engaging in creating substantial disturbance. This is not only is that relevant with regard to a lease in an apartment complex, but it is also relevant with regard to P.O.C. So the timing in which the 55 engages in this is relevant, and they do it moments before. This is also relevant. The sprinklers come on, which again is mere form. It is P.O.C. It is a form of audible activity. The sprinklers coming on directly outside of the apartment. This is analogous to that. This is a third party using that which is opposed to take the form as some ordinary function, right, as a means of P.O.C. in the same way that third parties use any activity that the targeted individual is engaged in as a means of P.O.C. So with regard to the AC, what you have now are third parties and the state. Again, the state remains present, and improbable light activity remains present inside of this apartment at all times. That in and of itself is indicative of the ongoing system. It is underway. That is irrefutable, and that is already established based on documentation, based on conduct, based on the behavioral patterns as they exist. What I am showing is a breakdown of the elements and the expansiveness of the system, and what third parties in the state are engaged in a concerted fashion. So you have the use of the AC, and I am showing the ways in which it is being manipulated for purposes of monitoring inside of this private residence. Again, the AC is not in operation while it is not operating in the way that it is designed to, in the way that it has before, and that it's supposed to keep going. It's not on energy saver, and I certainly set it at a low temperature on purpose to demonstrate the ongoing manipulation of items inside of the apartment for purposes of P.O.C, demonstrating their ongoing knowledge of my presence, the ongoing targeting conduct, the ongoing use of everything that is within the state's control for purposes of criminal conduct and harassment. And so this is with regard to lights. As I have stated at every other venue, the appearance of peculiar light activity, flickering light, flashing light, sparking light, this is not malfunction. This is real-time manipulation of light in order to create light activity. This is the state engaging in P.O.C. This is third parties acting in concert with the state. The AC coming on and off and not working according to its design as it's been set. Again, this is not a malfunction. This is part of P.O.C. It is used as a means of P.O.C, and this is coincided, which is further proof of what I am documenting. This is coincided with third parties frequenting the sidewalk outside of this apartment, which is crossing paths, and the light traveling along Tracy Banks's door, which is directed light through her window. And again, you have this is necessarily coming from outside. Not only did I show the condition of the blinds, but you have the vertical blinds that are inside of the traveling light. And so I've described this inside of Starbucks. This has been seen before, and inside of GLEN HELEN Rehabilitation Center specifically. Literally walls of light that move across the structure inside of the building. And again, this is that which contains the vertical slats, and that is the blinds on the window. So it's coming from outside, and this is third-party conduct, directing light. This is improbable light activity, and this is coincided with the malfunctioning, I put that in quotes, of the AC. So again, what you have is, it is set at 60, and the current temperature has moved down to 72. This is not the design of this AC, and it is also not in conformity to the way in which it ordinarily operates, and it has coincided with third-party conduct, namely 55 directly above, who was engaged in creating substantial disturbances. This is in the form of stomping, concentrated directly above my head in the living room for purposes of audible activity. And this is, again, this is in conformity to the same conduct last night, engaging in this creation of audible activity moments prior to the sprinklers coming on. And I have already analogized that with every other form of P.O.C, and that is with regard to the best example are what the deputies and third-party inmates engage in, and the medical professionals in what takes form as ordinary duties inside of the jail. They engage in P.O.C, and it necessarily takes form in the ways in which they conduct business on a day-to-day basis. But there are those ways, when you pay attention to the details, that there are deviations that demonstrate that it is P.O.C, and that is the impossible light activity. That is, for example, in 15G, where I showed what was an occurrence inside of that G room, which is a prime example where the deputy used the PA system, which is a form of audible activity, while I was surrounded by deputies, while light and all other elements were present. You have him in use of the PA system, actually playing around on the PO system, in no way using it for purposes of business of the jail. And again, that was not the deputy being funny, that was merely P.O.C. And these are the ways in which there is a lack of coincidence. This is knowledge of their being documented. This is the absence of any intention to even take the form of engaging in any sort of business inside of the jail. The deputy literally was engaging and raising his voice over the PA system, speaking of this is the voice of God, and other nonsense. It was pure P.O.C. as far as using the PA systems to create audible activity while P.O.C. was underway in the form of light, in the form of being surrounded by the deputies who were engaged in the pattern of conduct as I sat there engaging in a tutorial before the cameras inside of the facility. And again, that was before they transferred me from 15D as in dog and moved me into solitary confinement in Unit 9. And so anyway, it's 9:26 a.m. and this is to show P.O.C. where Tracy Banks is outside of the apartment. P.O.C. 9:26 a.m. The other thing that I want to note, so you have with regard to the use of sprinklers, with regard to the use of the AC. So this is the machine that is not cooling the apartment. It is on a fan function, so it's not blowing cool air. And it is set at the current temperature inside of the apartment is well above that which it is set. Again, this is the purpose of the machine, and this is the way that it ordinarily works. What you have is the manipulation of such power usage inside of the apartment, and it is coincided with third-party conduct. And again, this is also revealed by virtue of the fact of 55 engaging in creating audible activity. This is concentrating on the living room while the operation of the AC, and this is what happened at 8:54 a.m. You have the traveling of light across Tracy Banks' door to the left, moving left across the door. That's improbable light activity, not coming from the sun, as the building directly across containing apartments 41 and 46, 42 and 41, 42, and 45 and 46 are directly across. This is not sun. This is in no way anything other than light being directed into the window of her bedroom, and this is coincided with the operation of the cooling function, and that results in a louder activity in the cooler. So this is audible activity, visible activity across Tracy Banks' door, which is also improbable light activity. That in and of itself is the hallmark of P.O.C. being underway, in addition to the stationary improbable light that is presently remaining stationary on the wall next to this couch, again, where the sunlight, again, the sun rises on the east. It is 9:28 a.m. So the sun is still relatively on the east side of the hemisphere, and you've got sunlight being directed across the wall, shooting backwards. Again, Woodside Apartments is north of where the sun is located relative to this building. This is also contradicted by every other form of impossible light activity where I've been inside of the grocery store, inside of Starbucks, inside of the vehicles at the same time of days. And so this is readily provable. This is easily contradicted by the inconsistency by the state and third parties that are directing light. This is also analogous to the direction of light inside of the vehicles, inside of the jails. This is, again, irrefutable evidence of directed light for purposes of P.O.C. Again, that is why it is the hallmark. So what you have is a third-party conduct, manipulation of that which is occurring inside of the apartment. You have Edison engaging in this conduct with regard to the light activity, which is coincided with the sound of the state being present in the form of sirens, airplane activity, third-party conduct directly above, and again, the third party, when present inside of the apartment, acting in concert to that end. It also takes this form, and so this is just another form that I want to show, and the way that in which that it is deduced is based on the fact that the AC is not even operating in the manner in which it is designed, which it has before. And again, this is not a product of malfunction. This is based on P.O.C., and that is also deduced based on the fact that third parties are acting in concert with its operation. In the same way that 55 was stomping on the floor moments before the sprinklers came on last night at 10:28 p.m., in the same way that this morning, 8:34 a.m., moments before the AC motor came on, you have 55 again stomping on the ceiling while light is traveling across Tracy Banks' door, while third parties are engaging crossing path on the sidewalk outside of the apartment, and many third parties crossing path. And so the mere frequency of third parties engaging and walking through on the sidewalk past this apartment is also that which is speaking to P.O.C. You literally do have strangers that enter the apartment complex engaging in P.O.C., strangers that are in the parking lot blasting their music in the parking lot for purposes of P.O.C. They are not necessarily residents at all. They are merely engaging in P.O.C. as they are passing through. Again, the code to the apartments, as I documented while I was in my car on Vine and G Street, it is common knowledge as they entered and exited this complex for purposes of P.O.C. So again, you have a system that's underway, and what I'm showing are the forms that it appears in, and you break it down and you see the presence of all substance. And so it's 9:31 a.m. and this is to show the inoperation of the AC machine inside of the apartment, and that is for purposes of P.O.C. It's May 5th, 2020. It's 9:33 a.m. Again, it's still May 5th, 2020, Tuesday. One other thing, I want to be consistent with regard to full exposure of this system as I continue to notate and narrate in real time P.O.C. and the ways in which it manifests, and this is under factual circumstances of the private residence where the targeted individual remains. This is not only revelatory with regard to P.O.C., and the ways in which the state exercises control over the immediate environment, and this is all for purposes of monitoring. Again, this is at a ratcheted up rate of aggression and hostility based on a target individual who is aware, who is openly confronting, exposing, documenting a criminal pattern of conduct on the part of the state, acting in concert with the state of California, literally third parties, as there is no exclusion or exception. Every single person, professional, irrespective of title, status, identity, is engaged in P.O.C. And again, this is proven based on conduct. And that is why whoever it is irrelevant. What you are looking at is the presence of the elements at all times, and this is how you deduce what is underway. This is how you identify and prosecute. But again, pursuant to that, it is also highly relevant context that this is of the demonic. Just as I provided the tutorial while I was illegally confined inside of the last facility, being West Valley Jail, on their own cameras, before their own eyes, before when this is prosecuted, what is seen on the cameras, it needs to be understood that you are looking at demonic activity. This is demonic activity before your face. If you're thinking you're going to see black ghouls and ghosts flying around with brooms between your legs, that is not what demonic activity looks like. You are looking at demonic activity right before your face. It is in plain view. So when I'm spelling out what the third-party inmates and what the deputies are doing and how they are doing it in concert, what the medical professionals are engaged in and how they are engaged in concert with the deputies, how the state is engaged in flying over and remaining present where I am via aircraft, this is demonic activity. And this is shown by the consistency of that behavioral pattern. Being able to have the spiritual discernment to identify its demonic source is merely context, right? You prosecute it based on the evidence, and this is why I have pointed out form. This is why I have pointed out the consistency of the presence of elements at all times in order to be able to see this is a matter of public corruption that exists in plain sight. That in and of itself is the demonic aspect. The demonic aspects of what I'm documenting right now, the third parties that are engaged in crossing paths, you've got them engaged in systematically walking paths. You've got a lot of strangers engaging in walking past the apartment, crossing path. That's demonic activity. They are operating under a demonic influence. 55 directly above, engaging in this conduct of literally running around in the apartment above, stomping, not suddenly, stomping in concert with regard to P.O.C. This is demonic activity. This is demonic conduct, what they are engaged in. And you have the concerted conduct by the state's actions, again, of flying around, circling around in a helicopter, circling around over the my car that I was sleeping in on Vine and G Street at all times of the night. I created videos in all manner of documentation 24 hours a day. This is demonic conduct. The third parties that were engaged in loitering around my vehicle as I slept in my car on Vine and G, that is demonic. they are operating under a demonic influence. And this is the point of my pointing out this context is to point out not only the fact that it is criminal, it is clearly able to be prosecuted, it's perfectly feasible to engage in because of the false assumption that it will not be identified based on that which is assumed to be lawful conduct, and this is to the contrary. They are engaging in that which is otherwise assumed to be innocuous for a criminal motive, a criminal purpose, and intentionally so. And this is also seen through the identical behavioral patterns as they exist, where the targeted individual goes from place to place to place. In addition to that, you have the factual backdrop, where I am subject to slander, defamation, calumny, libel by medical professionals, lying when having no consent, and stating that they've rendered some assessment, stating that I'm in need of medical monitoring. This is with regard to Heidi working at GLEN HELEN when I was subject to false imprisonment. So not only is this defamatory, it's collateral to Lisa Rogan's false imprisonment that occurred on February 18th. It needs to be understood. Lisa Rogan, the courtroom that was filled to capacity, the deputies that were engaged in sexual battery and assault by searching me, by going within my clothes to search me, by placing me under arrest inside of the courthouse, the improbable light activity directed inside of the court on the floor where I'm sitting outside of the court, the district attorney's office and the public defender's office, the police that were present, the concerted conduct by third parties that filled up the courthouse that day on every single floor, all of them bearing a communication device in their hand. This is the operation of a demonic influence over a group of people, that group of people being the very occupants of the state of California. The spiritual influence is invisible. It is visible, it is deducible based on the conduct. The reason why it is uniform conduct is because it is the same demonic spirit in operation. And this is that which is important to understand for purposes of conduct. 55, this is engaged in demonic activity, and it takes the wicked form in creating, in the form of engaging in substantial disturbance, stomping on the ceiling. That is demonic in and of itself. If you just look at the bare bones activity that 55 is engaged in, the bare bones activity that TRACEE Banks is engaged in inside of the apartment, when you break down what she's actually engaged in the form of the elements, that is demonic activity, and the most wicked of its nature based on her relation to the targeted individual. And this is that which she has been engaged in for years. In addition to that history that she has of stalking, of demonstrating an issue with paranoia, demonstrating an issue with regard to P.O.C. on the part of third parties who, again, many times as a child, waking up in the middle of the night, seeing TRACEE Banks standing over me or standing at the doorway of my bedroom, just staring at me. This is that which third parties engage in inside of the jail. This is that which TRACEE Banks engaged in. She is a third-party insider inside of not only my apartment in Upland, but every other place that we lived in addition to this place, standing over. This is documented conduct that she engaged in, and it is in conformity to that which occurred while I was inside of my car, third parties loitering around my vehicle. This is uniform activity pursuant to a demonic influence, and this is only relevant for purposes of contact. My intent to expose in every way that which is at work and the ways in which it has been able to hide itself, but it is no longer a secret, it is no longer hidden, and I am demonstrating the ways in which it is identified and the ways in which you may prosecute it. It is not impervious to prosecution based on the fact that you have the intentional conduct that third parties and the state are engaged in, which is clearly in contravention of the law, the Constitution, and the targeted individual's human rights. And so this is that which I just want to continue to point out, and the expansiveness of the system. It is I'm literally showing how you've got the light company, the electricity company, engaged in concerted conduct, the ways in which light activity inside of this apartment, as I documented in 2019 specifically, that is concerted conduct. And you're talking about even the use of water inside of the apartment, the sprinklers around outside of the apartment, the AC inside of the apartment. This is all speaking to an ongoing system. It is expansive in its reach. It is desperately criminal, and it is demonic in nature. And it is the very thing that I pointed out inside of the facilities. Unbeknownst to the deputies themselves, not realizing that they are exposing themselves. All I did was provide the tutorial toward the latter weeks of my confinement in order to demonstrate and explain and further provide context to what you are looking at. And that is all I am doing when I am breaking down form into substance. At all times, elements remain present, and it is P.O.C., and it is important to know that it is of a demonic nature, and this is why you have that identical behavioral pattern. Okay, it is May 5th. It's 2020, Tuesday. It is 1:27 p.m., and this is just continuation of P.O.C. as it continues to exist on a ceaseless basis, and the different ways in which it manifests itself for purposes of identifying when the state is engaged in a system of stalking, harassment, and monitoring, and the elements remain present at all times. And so this is not about proving that which is in existence. The case is already proven, and there are hallmarks that demonstrate it based on a prolonged amount of time of documenting the state's engagement in ongoing surveillance and stalking, the filing of legal documentation, filed suits in the court, which is also another form of proof in sworn testimony and video presented before the court. Again, the court is another vessel of the state that also revealed its identity, engaged in the same corrupt system as that state engaged in, the court engaged in evasion of service of process, refusing to serve the State Attorney General, and this was repeated by the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. And so this is to show the totality of the system at work, and this is based on legal relief that is clearly merited under the law, under the Constitution, state and federal, and so denial of basic right for service of process under the provisions of a fee waiver, where that is the sole means of service of process, and this is an refusal to serve by the sheriff's office, who is directed under the provisions of the fee waiver. These are statutory provisions that they clearly were in violation of. The court, the sheriff's department, the appeals court, the Supreme Court, denial of the writ of mandamus submitted. And so, again, that's clear violation of the law, clear denial of that which is legally entitled relief. And so there is no argument there. With regard to the hallmarks in the system, what you have, the system of stalking, harassment, and monitoring, you have, again, improbable light activity. And that is where you have the state actively engaging in targeting the environment. And again, while I am engaged in narrating and notating and continuing to expose the way that elements manifest themselves for purposes of being able to identify a state engaged in a system of corruption, and that is taking form in that which is otherwise used to being non-identified, existing in plain sight without being identified as actually one where the state is engaged in corporate invasion of privacy, targeting American citizens. And this is not only identifying it by the state's overt stalking and surveillance via law enforcement, through false imprisonment, assault and battery by police, stalking via aircraft, the judges and attorneys engaging in criminal conduct through use of their professional licenses, defamation and libel, the deputies in the jails, when subject to false imprisonment, engaging in that same stalking conduct, surveillance and monitoring inside of the jails in concert with the inmates, engaging in the same behavioral patterns as are documented out in the public and under these circumstances in a private residence. And so this is the system. It is showing the consistency of all elements. And again, the hallmarks that exist to date is the directed light into this apartment. This is a private residence. You have third-party outsiders, that is complete strangers, engaging in the identical behavioral patterns. And so this is merely pointing out the ways in which those elements take literal form, what it looks like, what it appears as, the expansiveness of the system, the links to which the state and third parties are going to in order to perpetuate the system around a targeted individual who is actually aware. And this also speaks to the level of aggression, the desperate acts of criminality that the state has engaged in based on an effort to conceal, in an effort to oppress, and an effort to deliberately continue to engage in that criminal conduct. And so it is 1:31 p.m. and as I spoke about yesterday, May 4th, that was Monday, throughout the day with regard to the state's conduct, it is highly relevant, and again, it is further confirmation, it is probative. There is no way for the state to undo that which has already been established as a pattern for over a prolonged amount of time. We're talking since December of 2018, the state has been engaged in stalking via aircraft, and so this is already facts, these are already facts that exist, and this is the way in which the state cannot contradict. It is impossible for them to contradict the pattern that has already been established, and so each and every aircraft that engaged is in that consistent act of harassment and stalking and monitoring. By virtue of that conduct, they are adding additional confirmation of their ongoing presence. This is surveillance. This is pursuant to their ongoing monitoring. And to that particular fact, what I want to show, it is also stalking because it follows me everywhere I go. And where am I at right now? I'm inside of the private residence, and this is why the airplanes have migrated to my location here and are concentrated on flying over this precise area. The same with law enforcement. So with regard to monitoring specifically, I made the relevant point, highly relevant, that the planes, which represents the state, so the state is not only engaging in criminal conduct of monitoring, and these are the elements pursuant specifically to monitoring. Again, stalking and harassment are merely the ways in which they continue to engage in the pattern of conduct of monitoring. And so what you have with regard to the state's conduct of flying around and over this apartment, what I stated specifically in the evening, after my deliberate notation and notation of specific times, again, you're dealing with an entity that is listening to its criminal conduct be documented in real time. So not only are we exposing the elements as they exist, we are also looking at an entity that is aware that it is being documented, and so their actions are also analyzed in that regard as well. And so with regard to my noting specific times, what you have last night was the state basically engaging in, continuing to engage in the same P.O.C, but pacing itself, because, and I say that because the state's conduct was quote-unquote limited to, you're talking about I would say about between 1 to 2 hours, the plane activity slowed down. And again, this is relevant for purposes of P.O.C. It is probative as to ongoing state stalking and surveillance and monitoring that is occurring at a ceaseless basis. But what I pointed out, which is what I want to make relevant today, because this is an example of what I was pointing out last night, is that the state engages in creation of audible activity because they are not at any point absent. They only make themselves audibly perceivable, and this is pursuant to P.O.C. So when they are making themselves audibly perceivable, and deliberately so last night, at time rates that they slowed down because of their awareness that I documented the frequency with which they were increasing it, which was occurring with simultaneity to my notation of P.O.C. And so what you had last night was them slowing down the pace, but that in and of itself is still not any contradiction of their ongoing surveillance and monitoring and stalking conduct. What it speaks to is their ongoing awareness that they are being documented, and also it is also still perfectly usable and engaged in for the criminal purpose of monitoring. And so to that end, today, what you have at 11:55 and 11:56, you have the state engaging in making itself audibly perceivable. This is the same state that follows me at every location that I go, as the documentation reflects. This is the same state that follows me even to the courthouse, engaging in concerted conduct with third parties that fill the courthouse and surround the courthouse, including law enforcement. So this is at a ceaseless manner. Again, these are already facts that are already established. And this is the hallmark of the system. I am just being thorough and speaking to the expansiveness of the full picture of the criminality of the state and the system at work. The state's conduct is probative with regard to what I am documenting about the third parties. Indeed, what the state is doing is not for any reason, is not for naught. How about that? And the third parties that surround the third parties that I am documenting engaging in concerted conduct, it is for that reason. It is in concert with that same entity that they are engaging in such conduct. So this is why I mean, this is how I mean all of the facts are interrelated. And so where you have, like I already stated, improbable light activity in the immediate environment of the targeted individual, that in and of itself establishes what those persons around the targeted individual is engaged in. That in and of itself is proof of the system. Anyone around that targeted individual is engaged in P.O.C. by virtue of the presence. This is the very reason why improbable light activity exists in the environment of the targeted individual. That in and of itself, without even going into the details of what a particular third party is engaged in at that moment, is incriminating to that third party that is within a relevant position to the targeted individual, and that's what needs to be understood. You have the same thing with regard to the state's conduct. Okay, 1:37 p.m., and what I want to make sure that I also note on is I was drawing the correlation between state conduct and elements with regard to hallmarks of that system. So what I was speaking to was the state's conduct with regard to the ongoing stalking, harassment, and monitoring. And again, what I'm honing in on is the establishment of all elements, the establishment, the incrimination of third parties that are in relevant position to the targeted individual by virtue of the presence of improbable light activity, the incrimination of third parties in relevant position by virtue of the fact that the state is engaged in ongoing stalking, surveillance, and monitoring. And so what that speaks to is when the state is engaged in stalking via law enforcement by the state, right, that's the state, fire, ambulance, and or police, you have the state engaged in stalking and monitoring and conduct by virtue of aircraft. The fact that they are engaged in it at any location that I'm at, every third party in relevant position to me, and I'm only focusing on those in relevant position to me, but the system, you're talking about each and every single last third party that is. This is a suit against the state of California, but for purposes of being limited to that which is most reasonably broken down in a court case, we will limit it to those who are specifically identified. And those that are within the close physical proximity of the target individual are engaged in POC, and knowingly and intentionally so. And so that's why I'm narrowing it down. But like I said, there are times when I've been, not only there are times, but for example, as I walk down Holt Boulevard, you need to understand the expansiveness of the system. Every third party driving down Holt Boulevard is aware of the target individual's presence. Turning down the street, driving past on the street, in the parking lot, in the stores in the parking lot, across the street, this is a total system that is at work, and they are using any manner of form that exists under such circumstances to engage in POC with one another and with the state. And so, like I said, because of the expansiveness of the system, we'll just focus on, for purposes of being in a private residence, those who are in relevant position to the targeted individual. It is incriminating to those third parties by virtue of the fact of the state's ongoing stalking conduct, because the state is acting in concert with third parties, and the conduct that the third parties are engaged in by virtue of their presence is that which is establishing the elements remaining present at all times, and that there is no coincidence and that there is no chance. That the state is engaging in such conduct, and where third parties are literally conducting themselves as though they are oblivious to the presence of airplanes engaging in repetitious and tortious conduct of as flying repeatedly over private residences and private residential zones, right? Engaging in that which is legally categorized as a public nuisance, but there is no complaint about that. There is no discussion. There's no issue presented. You're talking about third parties acting in concert with that state. This is why, and this is how the state's conduct, again, is another fact that is incriminating to every third party. And so this is why you hone in on what the state is doing. This is why you hone in on the environment of the targeted individual. This is why you hone in on the environment with regard to the amplification of sound. This is why you hone in on the timing of the conduct that third parties are engaged in, because it is not by chance. It is based on their corporate invasion of privacy, and this is a pattern. So back to what I was stating with regard to the planes and the state's conduct. So you have them pacing themselves, and they engaged in that pacing conduct as I was, number one, engaged in that which is basically not very much activity other than sitting on the couch watching the television with the air conditioner machine running in the living room. When I engage in a change in activity, when I engage in creating movement or any change thereof, this is what is summoning the presence of the state audibly, because they remain present at all times. And again, their presence at the time that I'm engaging in activity, movement, or any change thereof, which is the definition that I have assigned based on the pattern of conduct, this is when they engage in this, making themselves audibly perceivable. Okay, so like I said last night, that's what I pointed out, and that is another explanation for why it is also P.O.C, but that is also why they were able to pace themselves and slow down, and they notably did so after their awareness that I was literally marking down the frequency with which they were flying, more so as I was in the process of writing out P.O.C. And Tracy Bakeson's conduct, again, this is a third party, her conduct, becoming increasingly aggressive, unfounded hostility, speaking about facts which are coming out, facts, actually it's not facts, she's making up facts, engaging in creating more activity while I'm engaged in writing about her history of mental issues, stalking conduct, and engaging in what I have identified now as third-party conduct. She's been engaging in this sort of conduct since I was a child. So this is the timing that you look at and you analyze third-party conduct. 11:55 and 11:56 a.m. while I was engaged in a change of activity, getting up off of the couch, engaged in doing my hair, sitting in a different position, so I'm looking in different directions. This is a change in activity. This is a change in my position. You have the planes that begin making themselves audibly perceivable, roaring their engines, which is amplified in sound inside of the apartment. Two consecutive planes, 11:55 and 11:56. This is repeated again, so this is the heightening of them making themselves audibly perceivable throughout the time that I'm sitting in a different position, engaged in activity, and this is in concert with the third party directly above in 55. And now again, Tracy Banks does not have to be inside of the apartment while she remains cognizant of every word that I utter, and again, the same knowledge based on that corporate invasion of privacy, and this speaks to her timing when she's entering and exiting the apartment, in addition to when she's in the apartment, when she's exiting her room, when she's going to the bathroom. Everything she does is for purposes of P.O.C. and based on the ongoing invasion of privacy. So let's draw that correlation right there. And so this is the point that I was making last night, and this is another example of it. The state engaging in ongoing ceaseless surveillance, stalking, and for purposes of monitoring. That is what was happening with regard to the state making themselves audibly perceivable via aircraft, and it was at the time when I was engaged in a different new activity. In a different location, like I stated, engaged in doing my hair, and so they make themselves audibly perceivable at that time. Again, at 1:12 and 1:22, this is an increase, two airplanes engaging in making themselves audibly perceivable, flying directly over the apartment. This is amplified sound inside of the apartment, increasingly loud. This is for audible purpose, creating audible activity for purposes of monitoring while I'm engaged in a new activity, movement. I've got the light on, I've got the faucet running, I'm washing dishes, I'm in the kitchen, the TV and the AC is on, so this is the creation of activity, and they are building off of the targeted individual's creation of activity, living life for purposes of monitoring. And so this is when you see the planes picking up their activity, and this is the same pattern that I was pointing out yesterday with regard to the activity I was engaged in, as they are aware of the substance of what I write about P.O.C., and this is when they picked up their activity more so, and they became more conscious of it as I wrote wrote about it, and this is why they engaged in what I call pacing themselves, slowing it down. But even that is explainable by virtue of the fact that I was not engaged in any substantial change in activity. I was only laying on the couch watching television with the air on. Actually, the air was off for a lot of the time. But even when I turned it on, that's not a substantial change. When I did start writing, what happened though? You have 55 engaging after 10 p.m. again, while I'm engaging in writing out documentation, P.O.C, engaging in stomping exceedingly loud over the living room. This is creation of audible activity while I'm engaging in writing out documentation, and this is moments before the sprinklers come on. This is that which is intended to create audible activity in concert with that which they use as a means of POC. The timing that the sprinklers come on. Again, the same thing with regard to the use of the AC machine, where right now, again, the temperature in this apartment is at 80 degrees. And the AC is that which is not in operation when it should be constantly running, but they use it as a means of POC. As I move, the AC is the AC motor, when it gets louder, that is when it's coming on and off, and this is pursuant to ongoing invasion of privacy. And so these are the ways in which they are creating activity. This is why the state makes itself audibly perceivable at the times that they do, and it is in conformity to that which I stated yesterday, to that which the state demonstrated yesterday in real time as I was engaged in activity. That specific activity was documentation of criminal conduct by the state and third parties alike. Today, as I stated again, while I'm engaged in activity of doing my hair, sitting in a different position, looking in a different direction, while I'm washing the dishes, standing in the kitchen in a different location. This is when the state makes itself audibly perceivable, flying over the apartment, creating additional audible activity. In addition, in concert with 55, which remains in relevant position to me at all times inside of the apartment. And so it is 1:49 p.m. It's May 5th. 2020. This is just another note. These are just the ongoing real-time narration of POC, and I want to note specifically, again, it's 1:49 p.m., and I specifically want to go ahead and point out the fact that that at this time of the day, direct sunlight is not pointing directly onto the living room window. I mean, as a matter of real life and nature, but you have the state engaging in putting fake moons above my location, and the state engaging in directing light that is supposed to take the form as sunlight. But what I want to, and that's what the state does for purposes of monitoring. At no time, though, during the day is direct sunlight beaming onto the window of this apartment based on its location inside of the complex, based on the construction of the building and its face in the direction that it's facing. But what you have is not only that, and the placement of improbable light activity remaining present at all times, even at night, but in real time, while I was engaged in narrating POC, literally you have what is supposed to take form as direct sunlight appearing and disappearing inside of the apartment. And so I just want to note that this is just an ordinary occurrence. This is very typical. I just want to point out that today, in real time as I was speaking, you've got quote-unquote direct light that is hitting the floor, and as I finish narrating, so this is within a matter of 10 minutes, because it's about 10 minutes that I was speaking about POC and the state activity and third-party conduct, that the quote-unquote direct sunlight literally disappeared off the floor. So this is the state engaging in, I mean, this is already documented, but I'm just showing, this is just another example of the state engaging in a 24/7 adjustment in real-time monitoring and focusing on the environment where I am. And again, this is readily provable based on where the sun is located, that it is, and it certainly is not doing so the whole day that the sun is up. But this is the same thing that they did inside of West Valley Jail. So, I mean, this is the state's conduct, and they also placed fake moons. When I was in my car, they placed a fake moon right over my car. When I was typically at Starbucks every single day, they placed a fake moon directly over the Stater Brothers across the street. It serves as a light source. Now that I'm here inside of Woodside Apartments, they placed a fake moon directly over the building. And not only that, that fake moon stays in position in the window as Tracee Banks drives anywhere when we're traveling. And so this is the conduct that the state engages in, and these are the fantastical efforts and actions that they engage in. And I just want to go ahead and note the disappearance of direct sunlight off of the floor in a matter of 10 minutes inside of the apartment. And I also want to state that at no time of the day actually is that ever going to occur. I just want to go ahead and make sure that I narrate in real time what's occurring as I'm documenting in verbal form the state's ongoing monitoring and use of directed light inside of this apartment. Again, what you have throughout the entire day is improbable light activity inside of the apartment, but you also have the state engaging in directing light onto specifically this living room window. Again, this is focused on the environment where the target individual is located. They do the same thing with the amplification of sound. They do the same thing with the use of the resident directly above. This is why 55 concentrates on creating noise in the living room area, not only in the living room, but directly over the couch that I sit on. But even when they seek to try to deviate or contradict, which is impossible, it is still audible activity when the third party moves forward a little bit and creates noise in the living room over the TV as opposed to directly over the couch, or over the kitchen as opposed to directly over the couch, and that is based on their knowledge of and listening to me in real time document criminal conduct. But these are the ways in which the futile efforts with which third parties in the state seek to try to contradict in some way, but they cannot. There is this establishment of a pattern that has existed over a prolonged period of time, and what I am showing are the ways in which once a pattern is established, not only can you not deviate from it, but it is actually probative to show that not only is the state engaged in criminal conduct with the people of the state of California, but they are knowingly doing so while that targeted individual is aware of it. This is coloring the conduct that they're engaged in. This is speaking to the demonic nature that I am very much wanting to stress is very highly important to understand as context for what the state is engaging in. Is it relevant in the court of law? Perhaps, for purposes of understanding the nature of what the state and third parties are actually under the influence of, what the purpose of it is purely evil. It serves no legitimate purpose, but it is also that which is not impervious to prosecution because of the conduct, which you can prosecute in a court of law. But it is important to know every identified actor, state, third party, and otherwise, they are under that same demonic influence. Each and every one of those state actors that are engaging in flying these airplanes, they are under a demonic influence. Tracee Banks is operating under a demonic influence. Number 55, directly above, whoever they move in and out, because that's what Woodside Apartments does. The employee in number 41, his daughter, his wife, the dogs that they utilize for purposes of P.O.C, they are operating under a demonic influence. These third-party strangers that I do not know operating under specifically identical behavioral patterns. Every third-party employee, third-party patron at Stater Brothers, at Starbucks, at Food for Less, everywhere that I am documenting it, it needs to be understood that they are operating jointly under the same demonic influence. And this is just based on the ability to discern that presence of wickedness that is in operation, but also not only the spiritual aspect, but being able to have the legal skill not only to ascertain, not only to articulate, but being able to literally provide the tutorial for purposes of exposing this sort of demonic system such that it may be identified and prosecuted. And that is the whole purpose of this. It's 1:55 p.m. It's now 1:56 p.m. It's Tuesday, May 5th, and I am inside of the apartment. And what I want to note is that P.O.C., this is my purpose of it, of making these specific notes, P.O.C. is ceaseless. It is in no way hindered by virtue of the fact that Tracee Banks is not in the apartment. Indeed, P.O.C. is occurring at a ceaseless rate. 55 stays inside in relevant position. And like I said, with regard to the state that is engaged in manipulation of that which is in operation inside of the apartment, you're talking about use of the AC as a means of POC. This is what is occurring. As I move, they are engaging in turning on, this is the state controlling the literal machine for purposes of air conditioning in the apartment. Though the temperature is set down to 60 and it's 80 degrees in the apartment, the air conditioning function is not remaining on as it should, as it ordinarily would as well, actually. And it needs to be understood, this is not a malfunction. This is an aspect of monitoring. It is used for purposes of monitoring. And what is it creating? It creates audible activity, and it does so with simultaneity to my movement, activity, or any change thereof. And third parties are acting in concert with that use of that form of audible activity, while improbable light is directed inside of the apartment, while the state makes itself audibly perceivable as they are also listening to the targeted individual at all times, in conjunction with third-party outsiders who loiter around the apartment, who hide outside, who engage in creating form, like 42 did, as I documented the other day, form in the form of doing gardening when this is an apartment complex, a senior citizen apartment complex, and in a general lease term, lessees are not entitled to manipulate and change that which is actually the property of the lessor, and that is Woodside Apartments. And so these are the ways in which you can dwindle down to that which is form and that which is, dwindle down substance from the form that it takes. 42 was engaged in creating audible activity right outside the door as they were in relevant position in the front of their door. And that particular third party, that older gentleman, has been engaged in P.O.C. for a prolonged amount of time. Even last year, not only engaged in stalking conduct because he engaged in it at places outside of this apartment complex, but also engaged in ongoing monitoring. And at every time when I would exit from this apartment to go into 7-Eleven or to walk at any other place, 42 in particular, and this is based on his location. And so this is a third-party outsider that, based on the location, this is use of where a third party lives for purposes of P.O.C., capitalizing on that in order to make a more convenient, a more normal, quote-unquote, appearance for form. And this is serving P.O.C. And so he's crossing paths, and so he is engaging in creating audible activity as I'm walking into the gate to approach Tracy Banks' apartment. He's exiting his car, or he's getting in his car, or he's taking something out of his car. These are just the ways in which he would engage in P.O.C. And this is not to individualize him. I'm just showing the ways in which third parties are operating. This is a common sense way once you understand the elements and once you understand the ways that they seek to try to conceal what is actually at work. It is not concealed anymore at all. And you also see this speaks. Okay, it is May 5th. It's Tuesday, May 5th. It's 6:12 p.m. And what I have gone on and captured in the form of visual documentation. I'm laughing, but this is not funny. It's just so ridiculous and so desperately criminal. But this is the very pattern of conduct that I'm speaking to. This is the very state, the public entity against whom I filed a lawsuit, against whom the court refused to provide service of process pursuant to a statutory duty. That is within the office of the Sheriff's Department when one is relying on a fee waiver. This is why they refused to serve it. This is why the court did not force the Sheriff's Office to refuse it. To force the Sheriff's Department to do its statutory duty. This is why the appeals court denied that relief, which is clearly outlined under law. There is no excuse for the appeals court's conduct other than the fact that this is revealing as to a statewide system. There is also no excuse or reason, rationale for the Supreme Court's conduct, and what it is demonstrating based on conduct. This is what I am pointing out consistently. Looking at the conduct, looking at the actions taken. This is how you know what is occurring. Okay, so it is 6:14, so I'm going to break down the significance of everything that I captured, which is otherwise seen by common sense. What I went around the apartment doing is capturing the presence of impossible light activity. And again, at no time in the day is there ever going to occur, based on the natural occurrence, is there ever going to be direct sunlight pointed onto the living room window, pointed inside of this apartment. And so with that, what I have, number one, is as I turned on my communication device, what I want to note prior to what I captured at around 6:08, 6:09 p.m. The prevalence of that is direct sunlight that is beaming through the blinds, and this is what manifests itself on the wall. That's what I captured in a picture. And it is coming through the top of the blinds, it's coming through the vertical blinds, and this is shining through the side of the window. And this is because the state is directing sunlight that would be west of this apartment building, so that is coming from Vine, and again, this is not the position of the sun. Woodside Apartments, Vine Avenue is north of the sun actually, so what I'm saying is that there is not going to be any direct sunlight beaming backwards where the sun is moving toward the west as it's setting. Again, it is 6:15 p.m., so the sun is in the process of setting, and what this is actually presenting quite illogically and quite foolishly is proof of the state engaging in state monitoring, because what you have is based on the projection of direct sunlight onto the wall inside of this apartment, where it is the time of day where the sun is setting in the west, and where Woodside Apartments is north in position to the sun. Not only is there not any direct sunlight into this apartment, but there is not any direct sunlight pointed onto, pointing backwards actually. So this is a sunlight, direct, quote unquote, direct sunlight, acting like a laser of some sort, pointing backwards across Vine Avenue. This is not a natural occurrence. I'm just breaking down the common sense rationale for what the state is engaging in. The other thing that I want to state is, as I turn on my communication device, literally this light appeared on the living room wall. So when I'm saying that improbable light activity remains present all day, this is the case. What I am stating, as I documented earlier, the literal movement within 10 minutes inside of the apartment on the floor of what appears to be golden colored, direct, quote unquote, direct sunlight. It literally moved while I was in the midst of narrating P.O.C. And that's what occurred on the wall. ILA remains present. There are different colors of light that they use, and this is to appear as though direct versus indirect light. And again, based on the direction, based on the trajectory of light, based on the constant movement of the sun, based on the fact that it remains present all day long, this is how you are able to deduce it is within the same pattern of conduct, and it is relevant for purposes of monitoring. That's the only reason why impossible sunlight is being directed into my environment, and that is in conformity to every other place that I go. What I want to state then, not only is this unnatural, but it rapidly appeared as I was in the process, in use of this communication device, capturing the presence of impossible light activity. So all of this direct light that I captured in the picture was not there next to me. As I finished capturing the impossible light activity in Tracy Banks' bedroom, this is when I came back to the door and I captured an image how direct sunlight is beaming through the window. And this is how it is appearing onto the wall, because this is where they are focusing that light. And again, not only is it not the sun, this is a targeted area, a targeted focal point, but it also was not present minutes before I turned the phone on to start capturing it. And so you have them acting very rapidly with simultaneity to my conduct that they are actively listening to. It is in both instances impossible that it is placed there, but I want to go on to speak to another inconsistency. The fact that you can see in the images that I initially captured the presence that I've already documented, the presence of the impossible light activity on the closet door that is adjacent to the kitchen. You can see what are horizontal lines actually, and it appears at the top portion of the closet door, and you can see that her bedroom door is open, and this is to capture that which I observed inside of the apartment. I observed the increasing of light inside of the apartment, and this is while I was engaged in activity. Now I'll break that down in a moment. I want to focus on the light right now. I captured in the first picture the presence of that impossible light activity on the closet door, and I have documented the presence of that prior to this date. That was an exact image of what I have been describing in the past, and the fact that it was not coming from Tracy Banks's, it's not possible coming from her window. Again, she's got vertical slats on her window. These are horizontal lines that are appearing, and all of the windows inside of this apartment have vertical blinds on them, and so this is the manifestation of light with horizontal lines that's appearing at the top portion of the closet door. This is that which is being directed inside of this apartment from outside. In addition to that, her bedroom door was open, and I captured what was the amount of light at that particular moment. I also closed the bedroom door in order to make my point, the fact that it is not coming from her window. And you can see in that next image the fact that that directed light on the closet door at the top remains present as I close the door. And you can see that the bedroom door is closed, and that targeted light, that impossible light activity remains on the closet door. This is coming from the living room window where they are, and the patio door area where they are focusing on directing light inside and this is creating light activity as I move inside of the apartment, which is what I was doing, walking from the bedroom into the kitchen, moving about in the kitchen, walking back to the living room. This is creating light activity as they are directing light inside of my immediate environment. Light activity is any sort of movement that's occurring within light. So this is what Tracee Banks is doing when she's opening and closing her door, and improbable light is present on her bedroom door as she stands in front of it, as she walks back and forth. Not only is she in relevant position, not only is she creating audible activity, she's creating visible activity in the form of light. Movement of light, where your shadow is moving. This is creating visible activity for purposes of monitoring, and this is the significance of that, in addition to the fact that you see the impossibility of it being none other than being directed inside of the apartment. The second thing that I captured also was, again, what I described on the living room wall next to this couch is also what occurred on the bedroom door. I took a third image because I noticed the more light is brightening. Again, the sun is in the process of setting, and so this is an impossibility. This is moments while I'm in operation of capturing impossible light activity. This is the state acting with simultaneity to that which they are listening to me engage in, aware that I am using my communication device, taking pictures of the light activity inside of this apartment. And so what you see in that third picture is that I open the door back up and the light is brighter. Now, again, what you have is the state directing light going east, where the sun is setting in the west direction, and where Woodside is north of the sun. And so there will not be any direct sunlight beaming backwards, beaming into this window, beaming on the concrete like I took an image of. In addition to that, you can see in the images how the light is literally getting brighter and brighter by the moment. In that third picture, you can see the same position, the same condition set. I open the door back up, and you can see that it is brighter, beaming across her bedroom door. And that is analogous to the same thing that I'm describing with regard to the living room wall. All of this light, that direct light beaming through the vertical blinds in the living room window, was not present as I turned on my communication device. It was an immediate reaction to what they are listening to me and monitoring with regard to the use of my communication device, and aware that I'm moving around taking pictures. In addition to the fact, again, I would just want to reiterate the fact that direct sunlight, period, at no time of the day is going to be beaming on, focused on this living room window, certainly not beaming onto her bedroom door such that it creates light activity. That's the purpose of that, for purposes of monitoring. This is the state, and this is the state that is engaged in real-time reaction to what they are monitoring. And so this is not only the hallmark of the ongoing system where you've got ILA present, you have the system underway. It is also proof of that. Okay, Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. It is 6:23 p.m. I want to additionally note the following. That is relevant for purposes of light activity and the real-time rapid change in that light while I am in the midst of capturing it. Again, the sun is setting and it's getting brighter in here, and more direct light is appearing as I turn on my communication device, as I'm capturing pictures, which I was able to capture the difference before and after along Tracee's bedroom door as they are making more light appear. So that is the first point. The second point is, again, while I'm engaged in activity, you have the heightening of the creation of activity by the third parties acting in concert and on behalf of the state. And what did it appear in the form of? Again, you have activity that may be created in more than one manner. Visible activity, audible activity, and or sensational activity, and it does not have to be one. It could be all of them simultaneously. It could be one or the other. It could be more than one actor. Again, you're talking about a system. So this is the targeted individual that is surrounded by a state flying over them, law enforcement surrounding them on the ground, and third parties acting in concert with that government surrounding the third party. So this is a system that is in effect in operation against one individual, and typically without their knowledge. But where I am aware of it, what I am showing is that this is not to make it such that, and I am in no way suggesting, what I am breaking down are the presence of the elements, but they may all, well, first of all, they all exist simultaneously, elements 1, 2, and 3, but also with regard to the different forms in which they may manifest. They very well can all coexist, and third parties acting in concert, each engaging in a different form of the same element or the same form. They are acting in concert with each other and with the state, okay? So what occurred as I am engaged in activity, movement, and any change thereof. This is the definition. And what is the change in the activity or any, that I am engaged in? I am engaged in doing my hair. I got up from laying down on the couch. I am seated in the middle of the couch. I am engaged in my hands raised, and I am engaged in messing with my hair, undoing braids, etc. And this is a change in activity which they are actively monitoring, and again, based on the pattern of behavior that they consistently engage in, create activity. That the creation of activity was in the form of visible activity. Third parties engaging, consistently crossing paths on the sidewalk outside. You have the creation of impossible light activity appearing on the door, and this is occurring with simultaneity to my movement and activity inside of the apartment. And again, also another real-time reaction with regard to the appearance of impossible light activity on TRACEE bedroom's door, which again is not going to be appearing. It's literally an apartment building in front of her window. So this is the system at work directing light inside of her window. That is in no way the sun. Again, you look out the window as I took the capture of. It's apartments number 41 and 46. I'm sorry, 41 and 45. And so this is moving light traveling left and right across her bedroom door at the top portion of her door. What they did was, again, as I have documented verbally, narrating P.O.C., they changed the shape of that light, and so it's no longer, it did not appear as a wall of light as I specifically described. It is still the same conduct nonetheless. Again, another futile effort. It is no contradiction. They are engaged in the same element. This is the creation of visible activity. It is moving across the door. And this is while I am engaged in activity inside movement. I am engaged in doing my hair, and so this is the visible form of activity in relevant position to me, while 55 remains in relevant position above, creating a substantial amount of noise. With simultaneity to that, you have the AC that is actually not in operation. It begins to be in operation as I move. And that was specifically noted at 5:34 p.m. The AC motor comes on where the temperature in the apartment has remained the same. It's 80 degrees, and the cooling has been set to 60 all day long. The AC motor should be on right now, but it is not. They use it for purposes of P.O.C., and the AC motor, meaning the AC function, comes on as a means of monitoring me. So when I move, this is when the AC is heard. I observe it coming on and off. Again, moments later, the AC was on for about 7 minutes. As I move again, put my flip-flops on to walk into the bedroom, the bathroom area, this is when the AC is turned off again. And what I want to note right now, while I am in the midst of narrating P.O.C., those dogs barking, that is a means of P.O.C. That's a means of creating audible activity, while 55, this is under the demonic impression. This is demonic activity, and this is how it manifests itself. But I'm breaking down the elemental forms. This is a demon upstairs engaged in creating noise above me. This is audible activity acting in concert. And I can also break down the legal relevance of having dogs in an apartment complex where general lease terms outlaw or do not or bar the presence of dogs unless they are service dogs. In addition, this is a senior complex. So even if they do have a dog, they're not going to have multiple dogs, and they're also not going to be creating such a substantial disturbance. And those dogs begin barking with simultaneity to my conduct. It is the same elements over and over and over again. So anyway, back to what I was speaking of. This is the use of the AC. This is the presence of moving light across her bedroom door. And this is with simultaneity to my engagement in activity at that time, which was doing my hair on the couch. And that activity picked up as I engaged in starting to do my hair. And this is in conformity to that which I continue to document. The airplanes making themselves audible. It is based on what the targeted individual is doing. This is the same thing with regard to the targeting of light, molestation of the person of the targeted individual, surrounding that targeted individual with impossible light activity. This is based on the position, the location of the targeted individual. This is with regard to being in relevant position by third parties and the state alike. This is based on the location, the physical location of that targeted individual. It is all honed in on what that targeted individual is doing, and this is why activity heightens at the moment that I am engaged in such activity. And they use items such as the air conditioner to do so.